The cold metal floor pressed against Hyan-Wu's cheek as consciousness slowly returned to him. His head pounded like someone had hit it with a hammer. The taste of blood filled his mouth. He tried to move his arms but found them locked behind his back with thick metal restraints. Where was he? The last thing he remembered was the bright flash of enemy fire hitting his reconnaissance ship. He had been on a routine mission to map the outer systems when the Dominion forces appeared out of nowhere. His ship's engines had failed and he was falling toward the planet below. Everything after that was darkness. Hyan-Wu forced his eyes open. The room around him was strange and alien. The walls were smooth and white with no windows. Strange blue lights ran along the ceiling in patterns he did not understand. The air smelled different too, with a sharp chemical scent that made his nose burn. He tried to sit up, but his body felt heavy and weak. Whatever they had done to him had left him feeling like he had been sick for weeks. His military training kicked in and he began to check his condition. He could move his fingers and toes. His legs seemed to work. Nothing appeared to be broken. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed from somewhere beyond the walls. Hyan-Wu quickly closed his eyes and pretended to still be unconscious. He needed to learn as much as possible before they knew he was awake. A door opened with a soft hissing sound. The footsteps entered the room along with at least 2 other sets of lighter steps. Hyan-Wu could hear them breathing. It did not sound human. The human is still unconscious, said a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. How long has it been? 6 hours since we brought him aboard. Commander Voss, replied another voice. This one was higher and made strange clicking sounds between words. The medical scan shows he should wake soon. Good. I want to begin the process as quickly as possible. The High Command is very interested in what this one knows. Hyan-Wu felt something large move close to him. A shadow fell across his face, even through his closed eyelids. Whatever was looking at him was big. This is the engineer who designed the new human ship engines. The grinding voice continued. If we can break him, we will know how their ships move so fast through space. What if he proves difficult to break? Asked the clicking voice. They all break eventually. The compliance partner program has never failed. We just need to find the right pressure points. Hyan-Wu heard them move away from him. The door hissed shut and he was alone again. He opened his eyes and sat up carefully. His head spun, but he forced himself to stay upright. The room was small with no furniture except for the metal bench he had been lying on. The door was smooth with no handle on his side. He was definitely a prisoner. Commander Voss. That was the name of the one in charge. And they had mentioned something called a compliance partner program. Whatever that was, it did not sound good. Hours passed before anyone returned. Hyan-Wu had used the time to test his restraints and examine every part of the room. The metal cuffs around his wrists were too strong to break. The walls showed no weak points. There was no way out except through the door. When the door finally opened, Hyan-Wu got his first look at his captors. Commander Voss was exactly what he had imagined from the voice. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall with thick green scales covering his body. His head was long and narrow like a crocodile. Yellow eyes looked down at Hyan-Wu with cold intelligence. Behind him stood 2 smaller aliens. They looked like insects walking on 2 legs. Their clicking voices made more sense now. Ah, the human is awake, Commander Voss said. His mouth was full of sharp teeth. Good, we can begin. Begin what? Hyan-Wu asked. His voice came out rougher than he wanted. Your education, Voss replied. You are now a prisoner of the Dominion. Your ship was destroyed and your crew is dead. You are alone here with no hope of rescue. The words hit hard, but Hyan-Wu kept his face calm. He had been trained for this possibility. Rule 1 was to never show weakness. I am Engineer Kim Hai of the Earth Defense Force. Service number 7-7-4-9-2-1. That is all I am required to tell you. Commander Voss laughed. The sound was like stones falling down a cliff. How predictable, they all say something like that at first. But you will learn that things work differently here. One of the insect aliens stepped forward and began speaking in the clicking language. Voss nodded and replied in the same tongue. Then he turned back to Hyan-Wu. Let me explain how this facility operates, Voss said. We have found that simple torture is inefficient. Physical pain can be endured. Instead, we use a more elegant method. The commander began walking around the small room as he spoke. Each prisoner is assigned what we call a compliance partner. This partner is selected from one of the species we have conquered. Their job is to break your will and extract the information we need. And if I refuse to cooperate, then your partner dies and you get a new partner. This continues until you decide to talk or until you die yourself. It is very simple. Hyan-Wu felt cold despite the warm air in the room. They were going to use innocent people to get to him. It was clever and cruel. Your partner will arrive soon, Voss continued. I think you will find her very interesting. She is from a species called the Frailest. Very gentle people, very fragile. The way he said fragile made it sound like a threat. She has been quite successful with her previous assignments. 3 humans before you. None of them lasted more than a week. Commander Voss moved to the door. I suggest you prepare yourself, Engineer Kim. The process will begin tomorrow. After they left, Hyun-woo sat in the quiet room and tried to think. He was trapped on an alien ship with no way to escape. Soon they would bring someone to torture him psychologically using an innocent alien as the weapon. But he was still alive, and his mind was still his own. As long as that remained true, there was hope. His training had prepared him for interrogation. He just had to be stronger than whatever they threw at him. The door opened again much sooner than expected. This time, only one figure entered. Hyun-woo looked up and saw something that surprised him completely. The alien was small, barely 5 feet tall, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly in the room's strange lighting. Her face was delicate and almost human-like, with large, dark eyes that seemed too big for her head. She looked young and frightened. This was supposed to be his compliance partner. She looked like she would break if someone spoke too loudly near her. The alien girl looked at him for a long moment. Then she stepped closer and something changed in her expression. The frightened look disappeared and was replaced by something much colder. She smiled, and when she spoke her voice was soft but filled with confidence. "Hello human, my name is Nari." Her smile grew wider and somehow more dangerous. "The last 3 humans assigned to me lasted 2 days, 1 week, and 4 days respectively." She tilted her head to one side like a curious child. "You look softer than all of them. I think you will break much faster." The next morning came too soon. Hyun-woo had barely slept on the hard metal bench. Every time he closed his eyes, he kept thinking about Nara's cold smile and her words about the other humans who had not lasted long. The door opened and 2 guards entered. They were the same insect-like aliens from before. They removed his restraints and pushed him toward the door. "Move," one of them clicked. "Time for your first session." They led him through long corridors filled with the same white walls and blue lights. Other doors lined the hallway and Hyun-woo could hear sounds coming from behind some of them. Voices talking, sometimes shouting, sometimes crying. Other prisoners, he realized. They stopped at a door marked with strange symbols. One guard pressed his hand against a panel and the door slid open. Inside was a larger room with 2 chairs facing each other. Nari was already sitting in one of them. In the bright light of the new room she looked even more fragile than before. Her blue skin was almost transparent, and he could see thin lines that might have been veins underneath. Her large eyes watched him as the guards pushed him into the other chair. "You have 2 hours, one guard said to Nari. "Commander Voss expects progress." After the guards left, Nari and Hyun-woo sat in silence for several minutes. She just stared at him with those big dark eyes. Finally she spoke. "Are you ready to begin?" she asked. Her voice was soft and gentle, completely different from the night before. "Begin what exactly?" Hyun-woo replied. "The process of breaking you, of course." She said it like she was talking about the weather. "I need to understand how your mind works first. Tell me about your family." "I already told your commander everything he gets from me." Nari tilted her head. "That was before you met me. I am not like the others here. I do not use pain or threats. I use something much more effective." She leaned forward slightly. "I use truth." For the next hour, Nari asked him simple questions about his life, where he grew up, what he liked to do as a child, his favorite foods. Hyun-woo answered some and refused others. She never seemed angry when he would not answer. She just smiled and moved to the next question. But something strange was happening. As they talked, Hyun-woo began to feel comfortable with her. She seemed genuinely interested in his answers. Her voice was soothing and her questions felt more like friendly conversation than interrogation. When the session ended, the guards returned him to his cell. That night Hyun-woo had the strangest dreams. He dreamed about his childhood home on Earth, but in the dream his parents looked worried and scared. They kept asking him why he had left them alone. He woke up feeling guilty and sad. The dream had felt so real. The second session was similar to the first. Nari asked more personal questions and Hyun-woo found himself answering more of them. She had a way of making him want to talk. When she smiled, he felt good. When she looked sad, he wanted to make her feel better. But the dreams that night were worse. This time he dreamed about his military unit. His friends and fellow soldiers were trapped in a burning building and they were calling for his help. But in the dream, he just stood outside and watched them die. He woke up screaming by the 3rd day. Hyun-woo realized what was happening. Somehow Nari was getting inside his head. The dreams were not natural. She was putting thoughts and images in his mind while they talked. During their session, he confronted her about it. "You are doing something to me," he said. "These dreams are not coming from me." Nara's innocent expression did not change. "I do not know what you mean. Stop pretending. I know you are some kind of telepath or mind reader." For just a moment, her mask slipped. He saw something cold and calculating in her eyes. Then the gentle expression returned. "Even if that were true, what would you do about it?" she asked. "You are trapped here with me for 2 hours every day. There is nowhere to run." That night, the dreams were the worst yet. He saw his entire planet burning while alien ships filled the sky. He watched his family and friends die over and over again, and in every dream it was his fault because he had given away Earth's secrets. The 4th session began differently. Nari looked tired, and there were dark circles under her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was not as steady as before. You are stronger than the others, she admitted. Most humans break after the second night of dreams, but you are still fighting. Me good, Han-Wu said. I hope it is making you sick. Something flickered in her expression. Pain, maybe. You do not understand. I do not enjoy this. Every time I enter your mind, I feel what you feel. When I show you those terrible dreams, I experience them too. Then stop. I cannot. If I fail, Commander Voss will kill me. Then he will assign you to someone else who will be much worse than me. Han-Wu studied her face. For the first time, he thought he might be seeing the real Nari. She looked scared and tired and very young. How old are you? He asked. By your years, I am 19. I have been doing this for 2 years now, since you were 17. How many prisoners have you broken? You would be number 18. She looked down at her hands. I remember all of them, every memory I took, every fear I used against them. They all stay in my head forever. Han-Wu felt something he had not expected. Pity this girl was as much a prisoner as he was. Maybe more so. What happens to you when this is over? He asked. I do not know. I try not to think about it. She looked up at him again. But I do know what happens if I fail. So I cannot fail. The next few sessions continued the same way. Nari would probe his mind during the day and attack him with nightmares at night. But now Han-Wu knew what to look for. He began to build mental walls, focusing on happy memories when she tried to dig into the painful ones. He also began to notice something else. Sometimes, when Nari was deep in his mind, her expression would change. She would get a look of surprise or confusion. Once, she even smiled at something she found in his memories. What are you seeing in there? He asked during one session. Things I do not understand, she replied. Human thoughts are different from other species. You think in ways that make no sense to me. Like what? When I show you images of your planet being destroyed, you do not just feel fear. You also feel anger. And something else. Something that makes you want to fight back even more. Han-Wu almost smiled. We call that spite. Spite. When things get bad, humans do not just give up. We get stubborn. We decide that if we are going down, we are taking our enemies with us. Nari frowned. That is illogical. If you cannot win, why keep fighting? Because sometimes the fight matters more than winning. She stared at him for a long time. I do not understand your species. That might be your problem, Han-Wu said. But even as he spoke, he was planning. Every time Nari entered his mind, the connection went both ways. She was seeing his thoughts, but he was starting to sense hers too. And what he was learning about her in this place was giving him ideas. Very dangerous ideas. Commander Voss was not happy. Han-Wu could hear him shouting, even through the thick walls of his cell. The alien's voice carried down the corridor like thunder, full of anger and frustration. It had been 8 days since the sessions with Nari began, 8 days of mental attacks and nightmares, but Han-Wu was still fighting, still refusing to give up the information they wanted. The door to his cell burst open. Commander Voss filled the doorway, his yellow eyes blazing with rage. Behind him stood several guards. Bring him, Voss growled. They dragged Han-Wu through the corridors faster than usual. This time they did not go to the small room with 2 chairs. Instead, they entered a much larger space that looked like some kind of theater. Rows of seats faced a stage where Nari stood waiting, but something was wrong. Nari's hands were bound behind her back, and 2 guards stood beside her. She looked terrified. Sit him there, Voss commanded, pointing to a chair in the front row. When Han-Wu was secured in place, Commander Voss walked onto the stage. He towered over Nari, who barely came up to his chest. Your compliance partner has failed, Voss announced. 8 days and you have revealed nothing useful. This is unacceptable. He turned to look at Nari. And you, little ethereal, have disappointed me greatly. Your success rate was perfect until now. Please, Commander, Nari said, her voice shaking. Give me more time. Humans are different from the others. I need to adjust my methods. Time is something we do not have. Voss pulled out a weapon that looked like a crystal rod. High Command wants results immediately. If you cannot provide them, then you are no longer useful. Han-Wu felt his heart racing. They were going to kill her. Whatever else Nari was, she was still just a 19-year-old girl who had been forced into this terrible job. Wait, he called out. I will talk. Voss turned to him with interest. Oh, and what will you tell me? Han-Wu's mind raced. He needed to buy time, but he could not give them real information. The engine designs, I will tell you how they work. Excellent. Voss lowered his weapon but kept it ready. Begin. For the next hour, Han-Wu talked about engine technology. He mixed real scientific facts with complete nonsense, making it sound believable. He described power systems that could not possibly work and fuel mixtures that would explode if anyone tried to make them. But as he spoke, he watched Nari carefully. She was listening to every word, and sometimes her expression would change slightly. She knew he was lying. Her mental abilities let her sense his true thoughts even while he was speaking false words out loud. The question was, would she expose him? When he finished, Commander Voss looked pleased. Very informative. We will test these designs immediately. He turned to Nari. It seems your methods worked after all. Just took longer than usual. Yes, Commander, Nari said quietly. Good. Tomorrow, you will begin extracting information about human military bases and ship positions. I want everything he knows. After they returned him to his cell, Hyan-Woo waited. If Nari had told Voss the truth about his lies, guards would come for him soon. Hours passed with no sound from the corridor. The next morning, Nari arrived for their session looking exhausted. Her blue skin was paler than usual and her hands were shaking slightly. "Why did you not tell him I was lying?" Hyan-Woo asked. As soon as they were alone, she was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Because if I had, he would have killed both of us. So you know the engine information was fake, every word. Your mind was screaming the real answers while your mouth spoke lies. It was actually quite impressive." Hyan-Woo leaned forward. "Then you know I cannot give him what he really wants. The information about our military bases and ship locations. That knowledge would get millions of people killed. I know." She looked up at him with tired eyes. "And I know that you will die before you reveal it. Will you help him torture me until I break?" Nari was silent for several minutes. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I have been thinking about what you said. About spite. About fighting even when you cannot win." She met his eyes. "I think I am beginning to understand." "What do you mean?" "For 2 years I have broken prisoners because I was afraid to die. I told myself I had no choice. But watching you these past days, seeing how you refuse to give up even when everything is hopeless, I realized something." She stood up and walked to the small window in the room. Outside, stars were visible against the black of space. "There are worse things than dying." Hyan-Woo felt a chill run down his spine. "Nari, what are you thinking?" She turned back to him. "Commander Voss wants information about human military positions. Tomorrow, I am going to give him exactly what he wants." "You cannot do that. Those bases protect civilian colonies, families, children, ... I know." Her smile was sad but determined. "That is why I am going to give him the wrong information. Just like you did with the engines, but better, more believable. If he finds out, he will kill you, probably. But if I do nothing, he will eventually break you through me, and millions will die anyway." She sat back down. "At least this way, I choose how my story ends." Hyan-Woo stared at her. This fragile-looking girl was planning to sacrifice herself to protect people she had never met, from a species that was not even her own. "There has to be another way," he said. "Maybe, but I cannot think of one." She reached across the space between their chairs and almost touched his hand before pulling back. "Tell me about Earth, about the places I am going to help protect." So he did. He told her about green forests and blue oceans, about cities full of people living their lives in peace, about children playing in parks and families eating dinner together. He told her about art and music and all the beautiful things that humans had created. As he spoke, tears began to run down Nari's face. "I wish I could have seen it," she whispered. "Maybe you still can," Hyan-Woo said. "Maybe we can find a way out of this." "No." She wiped her eyes, and her expression became determined again. "But thank you for showing me something worth dying for." The next day, Commander Voss himself came to observe the session. He wanted to hear the military secrets personally. Nari began her mental assault on Hyan-Woo with more force than she had ever used before. The pain was incredible. It felt like someone was tearing his brain apart from the inside. But he endured it, knowing that she was trying to make it look real for Voss. After an hour of this torture, Hyan-Woo finally screamed and began talking. He gave them detailed information about human military bases, ship patrol routes, and defensive positions. Everything Voss wanted to hear. But every single piece of information was carefully designed to lead Dominion forces into traps or send them to empty space where nothing waited but human ambush fleets. Commander Voss was delighted. He praised Nari for her success and immediately began making plans to attack the positions Hyan-Woo had revealed. As the guards took Hyan-Woo back to his cell, he caught Nari's eye for just a moment. She looked proud and terrified at the same time. It would take the Dominion several days to position their fleets for the attacks. When those attacks failed and Voss realized he had been tricked, both Hyan-Woo and Nari would die. But maybe, just maybe, they had bought enough time for something else to happen. Some chance for escape or rescue that neither of them could see yet. In his cell that night, Hyan-Woo did not dream. For the first time in over a week, his sleep was peaceful. Nari was no longer attacking his mind. Instead, she was using her abilities to help him rest. It might be the last kindness either of them would ever receive. 3 days passed in tense silence. Commander Voss had moved most of his fleet to attack the positions Hyan-Woo had revealed, leaving the prison facility with only a skeleton crew. The corridors were quieter now, with fewer guards patrolling Hyan, who spent the time exercising in his cell and planning. If they were going to die when Voss discovered the deception, he wanted to be ready to fight. His body was getting stronger after days of forced rest and the regular meals they gave prisoners. The 4th morning, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors and Hyan-Woo could hear guards running back and forth outside his cell. Something had gone very wrong. The door to his cell opened and Nari stumbled inside. She looked terrible. Her blue skin was almost white and she could barely stand. One of the guards shoved her forward. Commander Voss wants to see you both immediately, the guard snarled. The fleets have returned. They were dragged through the corridors to Voss's command center. The room was filled with screens showing star maps and ship positions. Commander Voss stood in the center of it all, his scaled hide darker than usual with rage. When he saw them, his yellow eyes blazed with fury. 17 ships, he growled. 17 ships destroyed. 300 good soldiers dead. He stepped closer to them. And do you know what they found when they reached your secret military bases? Hyan-Wu said nothing. Beside him, Nari swayed on her feet but kept her head up. Nothing, Voss continued. Empty space. Or worse, human warships waiting in ambush. He grabbed Hyan-Wu by the throat. You lied to me. Yes, Hyan-Wu said simply. I did. Voss backhanded him across the face. The blow sent him sprawling to the floor. And you, he said, turning to Nari. You helped him. You could have exposed his lies, but instead you helped him make them believable. Yes, Nari said, her voice barely audible. I did. Why? Voss roared. Why would you betray your own survival for this human? Nari lifted her head and looked directly at the commander. Because some things are more important than survival. Voss raised his weapon. Then you can both learn about death. Wait, called a voice from across the room. One of the insect-like guards approached. Commander, High Command is requesting immediate communication. They want to know what happened to the fleet. Voss lowered his weapon slightly. Tell them I will contact them shortly. He looked back at Hyan-Wu and Nari. Take them to holding cell 7. I want them to think about their situation while I decide exactly how they will die. The holding cell was different from Hyan-Wu's regular prison. It was smaller and had no windows. Worse, it was designed to hold 2 prisoners, with metal restraints built into the walls. But the guards were in a hurry. Instead of properly securing both prisoners, they just shackled Hyan-Wu's wrists and left Nari free. She was so weak she could barely stand, so they probably figured she was not a threat. Once they were alone, Nari collapsed against the wall. Are you all right? Hyan-Wu asked. I will live long enough, she replied. Using my abilities to help sell your lies took more energy than I had, but it was worth it. How long do you think we have? Not long. Voss will want to make an example of us before he reports to High Command. A few hours at most. Hyan-Wu tested his restraints. The metal was strong, but the wall they were attached to was older. Nari, I need you to listen carefully. Do you know the layout of this facility? Every corridor, every room. I have been here for 2 years. What about the hangar bays? How many ships do they have? She looked at him with surprise. You are planning to escape. In your condition with guards everywhere, do you have a better idea? Nari was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, and for the first time since he had met her, it was a genuinely happy expression. Actually, yes, I do. She struggled to sit up straighter. During my time here, I have been inside the minds of 17 different prisoners. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, scientists. I have their memories, their knowledge, their skills. What do you mean? I mean I know how to fly 7 different types of spacecraft. I know military tactics from 4 different species. I know the security codes for 3 major space stations because I pulled them from a captured intelligence officer's mind. Hyan-Wu stared at her. You have been collecting information all this time. Not intentionally at first, but ethereal minds do not forget. Anything we absorb from others, it all stays with us forever. Her expression grew sad again. It is part of why this job is so terrible for my people. We become living libraries of other beings' pain and secrets. But that also means you know things that could help us escape. More than that, I know things that could help your entire species win this war. She leaned forward. Hyan-Wu, I have military intelligence from dozens of different Dominion operations, ship designs, attack plans, resource locations, information your people could use to save millions of lives. The full scope of what she was saying hit him. You want to defect. I want to do something good with all the terrible knowledge in my head. I want to help instead of hurt for once in my life. Hyan-Wu looked around the small cell. First we have to get out of here alive. I know, and I think I can help with that too. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. There are currently only 12 guards left in this facility. Most of them are concentrated in the command center and the main corridors. The hangar bay has only 2 guards. How do you know that I can sense their minds from here if I concentrate? It is painful, but I can do it for short periods. What about security systems? Motion detectors in the main corridors, but not in the service tunnels. Door locks that can be overridden from the central computer in the command center. She opened her eyes. I know the override codes because I took them from a technician's mind 3 months ago. Hyan-Wu felt hope growing in his chest. Can you still use your abilities to confuse guards? A few, for a short time, but it will probably kill me. My people are not meant to use our gifts aggressively. Then we save that for when we absolutely need it. He looked at his restraints again. Can you help me get out of these? Nari nodded and moved closer. Her fingers were small but surprisingly strong. She found a weak point in the wall mounting and began working at it. Tell me about the hangar, Hyan-Wu said as she worked. What kind of ships do they have? Mostly small patrol craft and transport shuttles. But there is one courier ship that It is designed for long-distance travel. It has a faster-than-light drive and enough supplies for a 2-week journey. Can you fly it? I have the memories of a pilot who flew that exact model. It should be enough. The restraint came loose with a soft click. Haiyan Wu rubbed his wrists where the metal had chafed them. What about weapons? He asked. There is an armory on level 3, but it will be heavily guarded. We will have to make do without them then. He stood up and tested his legs. The days of captivity had weakened him, but he could still move. Are you ready for this? Nari struggled to her feet. She was pale and shaking, but her eyes were determined. I have been ready for 2 years, she said. I just did not know it until I met you. What do you mean? You showed me that sometimes the most important choice is not whether to live or die. It is how to live and how to die. She took his hand. Thank you for that. Haiyan Wu squeezed her hand gently. Thank you for choosing to trust me. Now, Nari said, let me show you how an ethereal really uses her abilities when she is not holding back. Her eyes began to glow with a soft blue light. Haiyan Wu felt a strange tingling in his mind, but this time it was not invasive or painful. Instead, it felt like she was sharing her strength with him. I can connect our minds temporarily, she explained. You will be able to see through my eyes when we are separated, and I will be able to guide you through the facility even if we get lost. Will it hurt you? Everything hurts me now. But this pain has a purpose. She moved to the door and placed her hand against it. The metal began to glow where she touched it. After a few seconds, there was a soft click. How did you do that? The same way I read minds. Everything is energy, and energy can be manipulated if you know how. She opened the door carefully and looked out into the corridor. The path is clear. Are you ready to leave this place? Haiyan Wu nodded. Together they stepped out into the corridor and began their escape from the prison that had held them both, captive in different ways. Behind them, alarms would soon begin blaring again, but this time, Commander Voss would find empty cells and the beginning of his worst nightmare. The service tunnels were dark and narrow. Haiyan Wu had to crawl on his hands and knees while Nari guided him through the maze of passages that ran between the facility's walls. Her connection to his mind let him see the path ahead even in the darkness. Stop, Nari whispered behind him. Guards coming. Through their mental link, Haiyan Wu could sense what she sensed. 2 guards were walking along the main corridor just above them. Their footsteps echoed through the metal flooring, waited in silence until the guards passed, then continued crawling. The tunnel was getting colder as they moved away from the heated living areas of the facility. How much further? Haiyan Wu asked. We are almost to the junction that leads to level 3, Nari replied. But there is a problem. I can sense more guards ahead. They are searching for us. How many? 4, maybe 5. They are spread out across the main corridors. Haiyan Wu thought quickly. Can you confuse them? Make them think we went a different direction. I can try, but it will be dangerous for me. Do it. Nari closed her eyes and her face scrunched up. In concentration, through their mental link, Haiyan Wu felt her reach out with her abilities. It was like watching invisible fingers touch the minds of the guards above them. One by one, she planted false memories. She made them think they had seen movement in the upper levels. She made them hear sounds coming from areas they had already searched. She turned their own senses against them. But the effort was costing her. Haiyan Wu could feel her pain through their connection. Using her abilities aggressively was like forcing her to touch fire with her bare hands. That's enough, he said. Stop before you hurt yourself more. Nari opened her eyes. Blood was running from her nose. It is done. They are moving away from our position. They continued through the tunnels. The metal walls around them began to change color from white to gray. They were entering the older sections of the facility. The hangar is just ahead, Nari said. But we have to go through a maintenance room first. There might be workers there. Can you sense anyone? She was quiet for a moment. One person, a technician doing repairs. They reached the end of the tunnel and found a grate that led into the maintenance room. Through the metal bars, they could see a single alien working on some kind of machinery. It was one of the insect-like species, clicking softly to itself as it worked. I can handle this, Haiyan Wu whispered. He quietly removed the grate and dropped down into the room. The technician looked up in surprise just as Haiyan Wu grabbed it from behind. A quick pressure to the right spot on its neck, and the alien went unconscious. Nicely done, Nari said as she climbed down. You learned that from military training. Basic combat techniques. Non-lethal takedowns are sometimes more useful than killing. They dragged the unconscious technician behind some equipment, where it would not be easily found. Then they moved to the door that led to the hangar. Haiyan Wu pressed his ear against the metal. He could hear sounds from the other side. Voices, footsteps, the hum of machinery. 2 guards, just like you said, he whispered to Nari. Can you tell where they are positioned? She closed her eyes again. One is near the main entrance. The other is walking patrol around the ships. They change positions every few minutes. What about the courier ship? Far side of the hangar. We will have to cross a lot of open space to reach it. Haiyan Wu thought about their options. They could wait for the guards to move, but that would take time they did not have. Or they could create a distraction. Can you make one of the guards think he heard something on the other side of the hangar? Yes, but it will have to be subtle. If I push too hard, he will realize something is wrong. Do it. Nari placed her hand on the door and reached out with her mind. Through their connection, Hyan-Woo felt her touch the guard's thoughts. She planted a small sound, like metal falling, in his perception. They waited. After a moment, they heard footsteps moving away from their position. Now Nari whispered that they opened the door and slipped into the hangar. The space was huge, with a high ceiling and rows of small spacecraft. The air smelled of fuel and metal. Polished. The courier ship was exactly where Nari had said it would be. It was sleek and silver, about the size of a large truck, perfect for 2 people to travel long distances. But as they approached it, alarms suddenly began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed and a voice echoed from speakers in the walls. Attention all personnel. Prisoners have escaped from holding cell 7. Lock down all exits immediately. They found the empty cell, Hyan-Woo said. Worse than that, Nari replied. I can sense Commander Voss's mind. He is very angry and he is coming here personally. The hangar doors began to slide shut. Heavy metal barriers were dropping down to seal all the exits. They had maybe 2 minutes before they were trapped. Can you get the ship started? Hyan-Woo asked. I think so. But it will take time to run through the startup sequence. Then go. I will handle the guards. Nari ran toward the ship while Hyan-Woo looked around for anything he could use as a weapon. He found a heavy wrench near one of the maintenance stations. The first guard appeared from behind a transport shuttle. He was carrying an energy weapon, and looked surprised to see Hyan-Woo standing in the open. Prisoner halt, the guard clicked. Surrender now or be destroyed. Instead of surrendering, Hyan-Woo threw the wrench as hard as he could. It struck the guard in the chest and knocked him backward. Before the alien could recover, Hyan-Woo was on top of him. The fight was brief but violent. The guard was stronger, but Hyan-Woo was faster and more desperate. When it was over, the guard was unconscious and Hyan-Woo had his weapon. Hyan-Woo, Nari called from the ship. The engines are warming up, but we need more time. The second guard appeared at the far end of the hangar, along with reinforcements. 3 more aliens were running toward them, all carrying weapons. Hyan-Woo took cover behind a fuel tank and started shooting. The energy weapon was unfamiliar, but the basic principle was the same as human firearms. Point and pull the trigger. His shots forced the guards to take cover, but he could not hit them at this distance. Worse, more guards were arriving every few seconds. How much longer? He shouted to Nari. Almost ready. But the hangar doors are sealed. We cannot get out. Hyan-Woo looked up at the massive doors blocking their escape. They were thick metal barriers designed to contain explosions. Even the courier ship's weapons would not be able to blast through them. Then he had an idea. Nari, can you access the facility's computer system with your abilities? Maybe, but I would have to touch the main control panel, and it is on the other side of the hangar, where the guards are. Yes. More energy blasts struck the fuel tank he was hiding behind. The metal was starting to glow red hot. Soon it would either explode or melt completely. There has to be another way, he muttered. That was when Commander Voss entered the hangar. The massive alien strode through a side entrance, flanked by 6 heavily armed guards. His scaled hide was darker than ever with rage. Enough, Voss roared. His voice echoed through the hangar like thunder. Stop shooting and surround them. I want them alive for questioning. The guards began moving to flank Hyunwa's position. In seconds, he would be completely surrounded with nowhere to run, but then Nari's voice came through their mental connection, speaking directly into his thoughts. Trust me, she said, and when I tell you to run, do not hesitate. Hyan-Woo saw her step out from behind the courier ship. She walked slowly toward the center of the hangar, her hands raised in surrender. Commander Voss, she called out. I want to make a deal. There will be no deals, Voss snarled. You have caused me too much trouble, but I have something you want, Nari continued. Information from the minds of 17 prisoners. Military secrets, ship designs, attack plans, everything your high command needs to win this war. Voss paused. The other guards looked at him uncertainly. You would betray your human friend. I would betray anyone to save my own life, Nari lied smoothly. I helped him escape because I thought we might succeed. But now I see we are trapped. I choose survival. Through their mental link, Hyan-Woo could feel what Nari was really planning. She was going to sacrifice herself to give him a chance to escape, but he could also feel how much the effort was costing her. Every word she spoke was agony. Prove your loyalty, Voss demanded. Use your abilities to subdue the human. Of course, Commander. Nari turned toward Hyan-Woo and her eyes began to glow with blue light. But instead of attacking his mind, she reached out to every electronic system in the hangar. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, but in that moment of darkness, Nari had touched every computer, every control panel, every automated system in the facility. Alarms began blaring from dozens of different sources. The hangar doors started opening and closing randomly. Maintenance robots activated and began moving around unpredictably. Even the artificial gravity flickered. What have you done? Voss shouted. Nari collapsed to her knees, blood flowing from her nose and ears. The massive effort had pushed her abilities far beyond their limits. "Run," she whispered through their mental connection. Now Hyanwu sprinted toward the courier ship as chaos erupted around him. Guards were shooting at shadows and automated systems. The hangar doors were cycling open and closed like the facility was having a mechanical seizure. He reached Nari just as she fell forward. Her blue skin was almost white now, and her breathing was shallow. "Leave me," she gasped. "Take the ship and go." "Not a chance," Hyanwu replied. He scooped her up in his arms and ran toward the courier ship. Behind them, Commander Voss was screaming orders that no one could hear over the alarms. Energy blasts flew in every direction as panicked guards shot at anything that moved. Hyanwu reached the ship and carried Nari up the boarding ramp. The interior was cramped but functional. He placed her in the co-pilot's seat and strapped himself into the pilot's position. "How do I fly this thing?" he asked. "Blue button starts engines," Nari whispered weakly. "Red lever is thrust control. Yellow switches off for navigation." The engines roared to life. Through the cockpit window, Hyanwu could see that the hangar doors were currently open, but they were cycling closed again. "Hold on," he said, and pushed the thrust lever forward. The courier ship shot forward like a bullet. They cleared the hangar doors with less than a meter to spare and burst out into open space. Behind them, the prison facility grew smaller and smaller until it was just another dot of light among the stars. "We did it," Hyanwu said. "We actually escaped." Nari did not answer. When he looked over at her, she was unconscious. Her breathing was very faint and her skin was cold to the touch. He had gotten them out of the prison, but now he faced a new challenge. How to keep Nari alive long enough to reach help, and where, in the vast galaxy, could they go that would be safe from the Dominion's reach? The courier ship's navigation system showed dozens of possible destinations. Some were human colonies, others were neutral worlds, and a few were marked as unknown. But first he had to take care of his unlikely ally, the small, fragile alien, who had risked everything to help him escape, who had taught him that sometimes the strongest people were the ones who looked the weakest. As he set course for the nearest human outpost, Hyanwu made a silent promise to the unconscious girl. Beside him, he would make sure her sacrifice meant something. He would make sure the information she carried reached the right people. And somehow, he would find a way to give her the new life she deserved. A life where she could use her abilities to help instead of hurt. A life where she could finally be free. The human medical station was small and understaffed, but it was the closest safe harbor Hyanwu could find. The courier ship's fuel was almost gone and Nari had been unconscious for 3 days straight. Dr. Kim Ginho looked tired as he emerged from the medical bay. His white coat was stained and his hands shook slightly from too much caffeine and too little sleep. "How is she?" Hyanwu asked immediately. "Stable, for now," Jinho replied. "But I have never seen anything like this before. Her brain activity is completely unlike any species in our medical databases. Whatever she did back there, it nearly killed her. Will she recover? I do not know. Her people's physiology is a mystery to me. All I can do is keep her comfortable and hope her body heals itself." Hyanwu slumped in his chair. For 3 days, he had been living on coffee and worry. The escape felt meaningless if Nari died from her injuries. "There is something else," Jinho continued. "Military intelligence wants to speak with you. They have been asking questions about your companion ever since you arrived." "What kind of questions?" "They want to know what she is, where she came from, and what she might know about Dominion operations." The doctor sat down across from Hyanwu. They seemed very interested in her potential value as an intelligence asset. Hyanwu felt anger rising in his chest. "She is not an asset. She is a person who risked her life to help me escape. I understand that, but you have to see their point of view. Any information about the Dominion could save human lives." Before Hyanwu could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Red lights flashed and an announcement echoed through the corridors. "All personnel report to stations. Incoming vessels detected. Origin unknown." Jinho jumped to his feet. That cannot be good news. They ran to the command center where station personnel was staring at their displays in confusion. On the main screen, dozens of ships were approaching from multiple directions. "Are they Dominion?" someone asked. "No," replied the sensor operator. "The ship designs are completely unknown. I have never seen anything like them." Station Commander Li Youngyi stepped forward. She was a small woman with graying hair, but her voice carried absolute authority. "Open communications," she ordered. "Let us find out who they are." The main screen flickered and suddenly showed the interior of an alien bridge. But these aliens were different from any species Hyanwu had seen before. They were tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. "Greetings, humans," said the alien captain. Her voice was musical and strangely soothing. "We are the healer fleet of the Ethereal Alliance. We have come for our sister." Commander Li looked confused. "Your sister, the young one you call Nari. We felt her pain across the void when she used her gifts beyond their limits. We have come to help her heal." Hyanwu stepped forward. "You are Ethereals like Nari." The alien captain's large eyes focused on him. "You are the human who helped her escape. We are grateful. Few beings would risk so much for one of our kind. How did you find us?" "All Ethereals are connected through what you might call a psychic network. When one of us suffers greatly, we will feel it. Naris pain called to us across the galaxy. Over the next few hours, everything changed. The ethereal ships surrounded the human station, but not as enemies. They came as healers and allies. Nari was transferred to the ethereal medical ship where healers worked around the clock to repair the damage she had done to herself. Hyan-Wu was allowed to stay with her, watching as alien technology slowly brought her back from the edge of death. When she finally woke up, 5 days later, the first thing she saw was Hyan-Wu sitting beside her bed. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "Of course I stayed. We are partners now, remember?" She smiled, and this time it was completely genuine. "Partners are like that." The ethereal healer, whose name was Su-Jin, explained what had happened. Nari pushed her abilities far beyond safe limits. In human terms, it would be like running a marathon while having a heart attack. "She is lucky to be alive. Will she be all right?" Hyan-Wu asked. "Her body will heal, but the memories she carries from all those prisoners will never leave her. That is the curse of our kind. We remember everything we touch forever." Nari struggled to sit up. "It is not entirely a curse. Those memories contain information that could help end this war." Over the following weeks, Nari shared everything she had learned during her 2 years as a compliance partner. Military codes, ship designs, resource locations, troop movements. The intelligence was incredibly valuable. But more than that, she revealed the true scope of the Dominion's compliance partner program. Hundreds of psychically gifted species had been enslaved and forced to break prisoners. It was the program of psychological warfare that had been devastatingly effective. "We can change that," Su-Jin explained during one of their meetings. "The Ethereal Alliance has been secretly working to free our people from Dominion control. With the information Nari provides, we can accelerate those efforts." Commander Lee was fascinated by the strategic implications. "You mean there is an entire network of enslaved psychics working for the Dominion?" "Yes," Nari replied. "And most of them hate what they are forced to do. If we could free them and turn them against their captors, the Dominion's greatest weapon becomes their greatest weakness." Hyan-Wu finished. The plan that emerged from these discussions was ambitious and dangerous. Joint human and ethereal teams would infiltrate Dominion facilities to rescue compliance partners. Those who were freed would provide intelligence about other facilities, creating a chain reaction that could eventually collapse the entire program. But it would require unprecedented cooperation between species that had never worked together before. "Humans are different from other species," Nari explained to the Ethereal Council during one meeting. "When they are pushed to their limits, they do not break. They become more dangerous. This trait could be the key to defeating the Dominion." "How so?" asked Su-Jin. "The Dominion expects conquered species to submit or die. They do not understand beings who fight harder when the odds are against them. This psychological blindness is their weakness." Hyan-Wu found himself serving as a bridge between the two species. His experience with Nari had taught him to appreciate the ethereal perspective, while his human background helped him explain human thinking to their new allies. 3 months after their escape, the first joint rescue mission launched. Hyan-Wu and Nari were part of the team, along with ethereal healers and human special forces. The target was a small Dominion facility similar to the one they had escaped from. Intelligence suggested it held 12 compliance partners from various species. The mission was a complete success. Not only did they rescue all 12 partners, but the information those partners provided led to 3 more successful raids within the following month. Word of the rescues spread throughout the Dominion's slave population. Compliance partners began sabotaging their assignments, feeding false information to their captors, and finding ways to communicate with potential rescuers. Commander Voss's facility was among the targets hit in the second wave of raids. When human and ethereal forces arrived, they found the prison in chaos. The remaining compliance partners had risen up against their guards, using their abilities in ways the Dominion had never imagined possible. Voss himself was captured alive. During his interrogation, he made a comment that perfectly captured what had happened. "We thought we had found the perfect weapons," he said. "Beings who would break our enemies for us out of fear for their own lives. But we never understood that pain shared can become strength shared." As the compliance partner program collapsed, the Dominion found themselves facing enemies who knew their secrets, understood their tactics, and were highly motivated to see them defeated. The war was far from over, but the balance had shifted. Species that had been conquered and enslaved were finding their strength again. The Dominion's empire, built on fear and psychological manipulation, was cracking from within. 6 months after their escape, Hyan-Wu and Nari stood on the observation deck of a joint human ethereal research station. Through the windows they could see ships from dozens of different species working together. "Do you ever regret it?" Hyan-Wu asked, "giving up your old life?" Nari considered the question carefully. "The girl who broke 17 prisoners for the Dominion died in that hangar. I am someone new now. Someone who chooses to help instead of hurt. And the memories, the pain from all those minds you touched, still there, still painful. But now they serve a purpose. Every rescue we complete, every intelligence breakthrough we achieve, it gives meaning to that suffering." She turned to look at him, What about you? Do you regret trusting me? Haiyan Wu smiled. Never. You taught me something important about strength. It is not about being the biggest or the toughest. Real strength is about choosing to do the right thing even when it might destroy you. Humans have a word for that, do they not? Courage. Yes, courage. Nari looked back out at the ships. I think that is what the Dominion never understood. They thought fear was the ultimate weapon, but courage is stronger than fear, especially when it is shared. Below them, former compliance partners worked alongside their rescuers, planning the next wave of missions. Beings who had been forced to break others were now dedicated to freeing those still trapped. The Dominion had tried to use their greatest weakness against them. Instead, they had created something unprecedented in galactic history. An alliance built not on conquest or submission, but on the simple idea that everyone deserved the chance to choose their own path. As Haiyan Wu watched the bustling activity below, he thought about Neris's first words to him in that prison cell. She had said he would break faster than the others. She had been wrong about that. But she had been right about something else. He had not lasted long as the person he used to be. That man had died during their escape, replaced by someone who understood that sometimes the greatest victories come from the most unlikely partnerships. The war would continue. There would be setbacks and losses. But for the first time since the conflict began, there was real hope for peace. Not the peace of conquest, but the peace that comes when different peoples choose to work together toward a common goal. And it had all started with two prisoners in a cell, discovering that sometimes the weakest person in the room is actually the strongest of all.